The right interface in Novelcrafter is where the magic happens. It's the word processor that is clean and effective, allowing you to focus on your writing with no distractions. Let's dive in and explore its key components. The right view is divided into a couple of sections. We have the top bar, as with other views, for settings and general options. We have the manuscript below, which features a scene detail sidebar that follows your text as you scroll. And on the right-hand side, we have a timeline with markers that show you where scenes start, how long they are in proportion to your novel, and even indicates any text highlighting that you've done. Like with the plan interface, we have some additional features in the top bar. Next to the interface buttons, we have a button that allows you to control how much of the manuscript is shown at all times. By default, it shows you the view that you were last working with, but if you click on it, you'll be able to see how much of your story you want to see, whether the entire story, single chapters, acts, or scenes. So if we wanted to look at just the story, and you can see how the timeline changes with this. You can also hone in on one chapter. If you write a big novel, changing this to only the parts that you're currently working on will improve performance while you're working. Beside this, we have a word count, page count, and time it would take to read the passage. You can see how these are calculated in the format menu. In the top right-hand corner, we have the format menu. This controls how your manuscript is displayed within Novelcrafter. Take note that these formatting options don't get carried over when you export the novel. They are also global, so not to a single novel or series. First, we have the typography section. Here you can choose font family. We have options for sans serif if you want to go for a more modern look. We have also included Atkinson Hyperlegible as a font for people with dyslexia. Try it out and see if it helps. Serif fonts for a more classic vibe. And also some monospaced ones in case that makes it easier to copy edit your work. In the interface, you can also control text size, line height, and if the text indents in Chicago style with the first paragraph indented or not. Paragraph spacing. Page width. Text align, left or justified. Quick note, if you're using Safari, the justified option doesn't work, but for all other browsers it's fine. You can also change the look and feel of the scene divider. So if we go to a scene or a chapter with two scenes, and we can see how here we can change the aesthetics of our scene divider. In the cursor control section, you can control the jump position, which sets where the cursor should land when you move between the plan and right views. You can have it either at the start or end of a scene, or telling it to remember where you left off. You can also toggle the typewriter mode and whether the auto-scrolling should be smooth or instant. You can see the difference there. In the page section, you can choose where your scene details appear, whether the interface is centered or not to fit the content. You can see the difference if you collapse the sidebar for the ultra clean writing space look. We go here, format, centered. Do fit content if you want to keep things kind of evenly distributed, or you can also use stacked. This is really good for space saving if you're working on a smaller screen, or when you want to work on two things at once via a pinned snippet, Codex entry, chat, etc. So you can see here now, your scene description is at the top of the scene. Finally, you can set the statistics used for the stats above. You can choose how many words per minute you read and how many words per page there are on average. The manuscript editor is designed to be very clean and to get out of your way from a more minimal look. You can see your whole book from top to bottom, showing you the acts, chapters, and scenes. Next to each section, we have an action menu for the act, chapter, and scene levels. These are exactly the same as the plan interface. Rewatch that video to get more information on what each of these buttons do. But you can see here, we have our act action button, a chapter action button, and then a scene action button. The scene details allow you to change the summary, edit the point of view, if any, tag the scene with labels, and add manual Codex references to the context. These Codex references will now be seen in every AI interaction within that scene, regardless of if they are mentioned in a beat or the text itself. So let's go with a Codex entry of Baritsu. Now, if we go on generate prose with the general purpose prompt, you can see that Baritsu is mentioned now at the top, even though there is no mention of it above, within the scene beat, or within the chapter summaries. You can also manually edit your scene summaries for easy access. At the bottom of each section, you can add a new scene, new chapter, or new act, depending on where you are. So see here, we can add a new scene. If we go to the end of the story, we can add a new scene, a new chapter. Right now, you can only quickly add new scenes after the last scene in a chapter, and they will always be appended to the end of the chapter. Now, if you want to write without distraction, you can press the focus mode button in the top bar. This puts Novelcrafter into full screen mode and also hides the scene summaries and other menus, enabling you to work in a clutter-free zone. See here, there are no scene summaries, there's nothing at the sides. Alternatively, you can use the shortcut Control or Command, Shift, and F if you have your shortcuts enabled. See our first video in the series to see how to activate this. At the far right side, you can see the scene timeline. This is invaluable for quickly navigating between scenes. Additionally, if you've highlighted pieces of text in colour, they will show up in the timeline, enabling you to quickly find edits or notes to self. So you can see here we've got different chapters we can flick through, and this little bit of highlighted text you can easily find. You're probably wondering where all the text formatting options are to make your text bold, italic, and the like. Instead of always showing them in a fixed toolbar, Novelcrafter has a floating one instead. Simply highlight any text to see the options. There are the usual formatting options such as bold, italics, and underlining. You can also strike through and highlight the text in a colour. In addition, you can make any text a block quote. This is Future Kate. We now have a few more formatting options that I'd like to go into. Instead of just confined to the write interface, you can now format your work in snippets, Codex descriptions, chat messages, and scene summaries as well. So beside the existing option to turn your text into a block quote, here, you can now format them as headings too. You have the options to use headings level 1, 2, or 3, and you can also revert them back to simple paragraphs in this menu. Next to this are the list options. You can choose to have bulleted or numbered lists here. Once your list is made, you can make these nested lists, increasing or decreasing the level that they are nested under. This formatting can be seen by the AI, and you can instruct AI to output with headings and a list too. Let's have an example. Let's add in a bullet point list. We'll go general purpose, GPT-4o Mini. And you can see it gives a full bullet point list. If you're working with multiple prose generations, aka kit bashing, you may want to use the add snippet option from selected text to send it to a dedicated snippet. You can see here it's copied it over and kept the text within your manuscript. you're a discovery writer or you come across a character, item, or location that isn't in your codex, you can highlight the words and make a codex entry from this. If your selection is small enough, it will be used as the name for the entry, but you can also highlight full paragraphs and put them into the codex as a description for the new entry. For example, here, we've got it as the title for the codex entry. And if we go here, it automatically puts it in the description. Finally, you can wrap your selection in a collapsible section. Think of sections as a way of organizing your manuscript. They can be named, moved around, minimized, and more importantly, you can choose to exclude them from the AI context by clicking here. This is perfect for notes to self, notes for an editor, or if you have any not safe for work content that you don't want the AI to see when generating the next beat. In the actions menu for a section, you can change the color of the selection, copy the content of the selection, dissolve the selection, i.e. turn it back into standard text, or delete the entire section and all the text within it. Example use cases include having inline possible story ideas of where things can go. You can also use sections to colorize your action or love scenes to make them more visible. If you're using AI and select 4 or more words, you can also have the option to use a text replacement prompt. There are 3 provided within Novelcrafter: expand, rephrase, and shorten. However, you're able to make your own and copy over those used by the community. If you click on one of these, you'll be asked to choose an AI model. And you also have the option to preview the prompt or to go to the prompt settings. If you type a / into a new empty line, you'll see a small menu. In the AI section, you can create an empty scene beat or create a scene beat that includes a prompt to continue writing your story. This is perfect for pantsers or if you don't know what to write next. Both of them are functionally the same. In the scene beat box, you can click and drag it by the handle. You can hide it, or you can delete it. Below this, you can start adding in your text. And then you can choose to either generate prose using one of your writing prompts, or also to clear the beat, which removes all text until either the next scene beat or the scene ends. When you generate your prose, you can again choose to preview your prompt before sending it off and select which model that you want to use. As you can see, the continue writing box is functionally the same, and if you want to add more text, you can do. It's an open text box. In the Codex section, you can add a Codex edition for if you want to add additional information and progressions about any of your entries. These Codex editions are super powerful, as the details are only sent to the AI if you're working on prose after the Codex entry. No more spoilers as to who the murderer is. You can select your character. Put in your text. You can go into your Codex entry and see that your Codex edition has been added. And if we remove it, it is also removed from the character. Finally, in the formatting section, you can create a horizontal rule to separate content. This is purely a visual feature for you as a user and not the AI. And you can also create a new empty section from here. Once you've begun to generate text, you can choose to stop the generation mid-flow, to retry, or to discard. Let's take a look. Here we go, general purpose, haiku. So you can see here we have stop, retry, and discard. Once the generation of prose has finished, the stop option becomes accept. Next to this, there is an option to add all of your generated text into a section. and then a word count and model indicator for the generated prose. If you click section, the generated text will be wrapped and pre-named with the model used. So you see here, Claude 3 Haiku. Apply. And you have it here. This is perfect for kit bashing so that you know which models generated which text. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we're going to look at the chat interface.